What's up everybody, Matt Moran here for another car review. This is the 2022 Lexus IS500 F-Sport Performance. And so about the IS500, I am just so happy this car exists. Just that alone, the fact this thing is sitting here with a V8 under its hood alone is just like fantastic, and is just one of the best cars of 2021 for this reason alone. But on top of that, I love the restyle they gave the IS last year. I covered an IS350, and I think the looks just got even better here for the IS500 because they had to make some adjustments here to fit that V8 engine under the hood. So you'll see that the hood has actually been raised about 2 inches. So you have a little bit of like a bulge here in the middle of the hood to accommodate that V8 engine. And on top of that, they did something kind of uncommon here. They actually lengthened the vehicle by about 2 inches, with all of that length being added onto the front end here. So the fenders are about 2 inches longer to again help accommodate that V8. And so it actually gives the proportions of the IS here, they're a little leaner and just a little bit sexier in my opinion than what they were before. And especially in this infrared color. This color, especially in the sun, it really pops, and it is one of the best looking reds on any car on the market these days. I mean, it was already striking on the LC500 when that debuted with this color a couple years ago. But here on the refresh styling, especially in the IS500, it really looks good. You've got this triple beam LED headlamps, the signature Lexus grille there. Coming down to the sides, you do have unique wheels here on these, and those wheels also are hiding larger brakes, which of course are required here for the extra power that you're getting with the V8 engine. You'll see also a little modest F-Sport badge here on the fender. And by the way, that's the only F-Sport badge on the entire car. This is kind of a sleeper in a way. Aside from just the IS500 badge on the back, you know, there's really no clues unless you really know what to look for that this is anything crazy. So I really like how it kind of flies under the radar a little bit. But I also just, you know, still love the side profile here of the IS. I love how you have that little line that kicks up by the rear doors there. And the shoulders on this thing here, the hips it has towards the back there, looks really good. And going out to the back end there, again, like I said, aside from the badging, not a whole lot to set it off. So you'll see you do have the quad exhaust tips that are kind of stacked, and that's a thing that you've seen on like the ISF back in the day and the other F models. And so it's cool to have those tailpipes here, even though this isn't a full-blown F model, and Lexus emphasizes that, you know, it just has the F engine, but the suspension and stuff is still very much what you get on an IS350. But anyway, other things out back, in addition to those exhaust tips, you'll have a slightly different rear diffuser there in the lower part of the rear bumper. And that's it as far as the changes. You still have a nice spoiler there on the deck lid, and I still love those full-length taillights you have there in the back. I love the back end on the IS in general. I thought it was just such a good restyle all around. But yeah, overall, I think from every angle, the IS500 just makes the already good-looking IS look even better. All right, so start up and go for a drive. The IS500 here has the normal Lexus key, nothing special. Honestly, due for an upgrade because it's been a while for Lexus, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. It is keyless access, keyless entry, and push button start here in the IS500. So you just leave the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, and it roars to life. Also, if you're curious to hear about the interior in the new IS, my wife and I actually just did a full in-depth interior review on an IS350 F Sport last year, so I'll link that above. You can go watch that if you want to hear all our thoughts on this interior. The IS500 interior is basically identical, aside from you have a unique startup screen here, and of course the tack goes higher for the V8 here. But basically, aside from that, it's all the same. Interestingly though, this car does not have a moonroof, even though this one has the premium package on top of just a regular IS500. So this is pretty much fully loaded, so to not have a moonroof is a little bit surprising. But other than that, yeah, interior is all the same. It's a nice interior, a little bit tighter than some of the other newer competitors these days, but again, there's a V8 under the hood, so everything else doesn't really matter, but still a very nice place to be. All right, so setting off here in the IS500. So I think the first thing that you'll probably notice is the burble of this V8 engine. It really is a nice sounding V8, and honestly, you know, the more I've just been driving this vehicle for only about 15 miles so far, but every mile that goes by, I just appreciate this V8 more and more. And I've praised this V8. It's the same V8 you get in a Lexus GSF. It's the same one that they even had back with the ISF back in the day, although it's had some revisions, but I loved it in the RCF. I love it in the LC500. It's amazing and everything. But here in the IS, I'm just appreciating it a little bit more. I think there's even a little bit more intake noise than you maybe get with some of the other vehicles that have used this engine in the past, and we'll hear lots more of this engine in this video, so stay tuned. But I just right from the first, few hundred feet you drive, you're going to enjoy that engine already. But other things here, visibility is excellent here with these newer ISs. So, nice thin A-pillar still. And even with this higher hood, it's not like you have any kind of massive hood to look over. You can still see around it very easily. Another thing is that I'm actually appreciating that all the inputs are kind of relaxed. So you have actually a fairly delayed throttle response here, where you kind of have a lot of travel before you actually get it to go. And I was actually kind of surprised whenever I was just tooling around last night that I actually had to press the gas pedal a good bit to even climb a hill. With all this power, you would think it'd be like ready to jump all over you, but it's really not. It's very relaxed, which is kind of nice because it means in daily driving you can actually drive this vehicle, in normal mode and not feel like you're trying to manage some high horsepower beast or something. Brakes are similar, where they have a lot of travel to them actually, and it makes it very easy to smoothly apply the brakes. You don't feel like you have these massive grabby brakes like you get with some of the other sportier competitors. And whenever you're just cruising around at low speeds, it's also still nice and refined, just like how you get with any other IS. They did a little bit of an improvement here with this newer version of the IS that they revealed last year to make them a little bit more refined and comfortable. And so you have an adaptive suspension here, just like you get on an IS350 F Sport. And so you can have that. Obviously there's various different modes. So in normal mode here, it's nice and comfortable, and you have the Sport and Sport Plus that'll tighten it up a little bit if you want. But so whenever you're just cruising around, it's actually really nice and relaxing still, even with this beastly engine that you're listening to. But we're going to go ahead and put it up into the Sport Plus mode, which is the most aggressive mode here. And it is a cold day of only 33 degrees, and we are on summer tires. And but anyway, let's turn down onto this back road here and see how it does. Here we go. All right. Whoa! Yes, sir. Wow. So we got a little bit of wheel spin off the line there, and then it gripped and went really well. Listen to that engine. This thing is a gem. Oh, it sounds so good. I'm kind of surprised. I think they've kind of dialed back the transmission settings here for Sport Plus mode, because back in the day, it would really hang on to higher RPMs once you started giving it some full throttle stuff. But anyway, this thing still runs the glorious 5-liter V8 engine. It's naturally aspirated and, has just a really good intake sound you hear a lot of. But anyway, it does 472 horsepower, 395 pound-feet of torque. 0 to 60 time is 4.3 seconds here. And so it's pretty quick. I mean, it's like over a second and a half quicker than an IS350. So I mean, compared to that, obviously you're going to be blowing the doors off an IS350. But it does keep up nicely with even stuff like the BMW M340i's, the C43 AMGs, things like that, which is where this is priced at, even though this has a V8 and those are all still just, the 6 cylinders. But I mean, 4.3 seconds, whenever you're dealing with, by the way, only 265 wide tires in the back there. So not super meaty tires. And it's interesting, these vehicles usually come with Bridgestone Potenza summer tires. This one, for some reason, though, is running Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires, which I actually prefer. I love the Michelins. I think that they're probably a little bit grippier as well, so it should help with performance. But I feel like, that's part of why maybe there wasn't quite as much wheel spin as some other people have been reporting in their reviews, where maybe they were on those Bridgestones and you have a little bit more tail happiness. Anyway, we're coming up some corners here, and let's see how the IS500 handles. So, adding the V8 has added on about 200 pounds of the curb weight. We're just under 4,000 pounds now, and see how it does. Really does quite well. I'm also pretty impressed because in the front we're only running 235 wide tires, and again, maybe the Michelins are helping give us a little bit of extra grip. But regardless, I mean they're summer tires, that certainly will help. But having that big V8 there, on the nose, and this thing still turns in without any understeer, nice and neutral, and it just handles really nice and flatly. And so the only changes they really made here for the IS500 are that you now have a Yamaha performance damper on the chassis, which is kind of a minor thing, doesn't make any kind of huge differences. And then you still have the torsion limited slip rear differential like you get on any other IS350 with the rear-wheel drive setup here. And so, you have the LSD to put down the power well, you have the adaptive suspension, which is the same as you get in an IS350. Now, I think they did change the tuning of it a little bit, obviously, to accommodate the extra weight with the V8 and all that kind of stuff. So it's not going to be identical in its settings to what you get in an IS350, but, the same mechanical components there. And you know, I didn't have any complaints with the IS350 handling. I thought it handled really well and was a really fun, sharp vehicle. And thankfully here with the V8, I don't feel any extra bloat. I'm not feeling those extra 200 pounds. It still feels just as sharp. It still feels really good to me. Yeah, and it's also pretty well behaved. We'll go on a few more corners and see how the back end does in a minute. But I also want to try out the manual mode here because it does have the Eisen 8-speed automatic. So this is the same transmission all the other F models are using. So I'm not expecting any kind of surprises here. But I just want to illustrate, compared to like a ZF 8-speed you're going to get in like the Audi S4 or the BMW M340i. This, so you can feel it's a lot slower between when I pull a paddle and when it starts giving me a downshift. Also upshifts, I mean, you can hear it. There's a delay there for sure. And it's like, it takes twice as long to manually shift this each gear versus what you get with the ZF transmissions or any kind of newer dual clutch that some of the other competitors might use. But then you hear that engine. And that engine, I will gladly give up you know, and give slower shifts for this sound and this buttery smooth V8 engine, which by the way revs to 7,300 RPMs. So it's not just a V8, it's a V8 that really likes to sing. It makes peak power towards the upper RPM ranges there. But even from 3,000 RPMs, the way this thing pulls, it pulls really strongly. And oh yeah, this thing is so, just listen to that. But it's quick. I mean, this thing will pick up speed very quickly, and it's almost deceptive because even though the engine's, you know, screaming away, you know, it gains speed a lot quicker than you might be expecting. And let's do another acceleration here in manual mode. Start in first gear, see how it does. Here we go. Oh man. Oh yeah. This thing. I love this thing. Oh, it's so good. Oh man. Yeah, manual shifts are slow, but you know what? I'm just gonna leave it in automatic, let it do its thing. The transmission's never been the shining star of these F models anyway. It's that engine, and so I do wish that they would have somehow worked in a better transmission over the course of these F models, but regardless, it still is such a blast, and even if you leave it in auto mode, it usually will figure itself out pretty well. But, oh, that engine is, oh, I'm going to miss that engine when it's gone. And then whenever you want to scrub off some speed from these wonderful acceleration runs, you have these nice large brakes that are beefed up over an IS350. That is one big improvement. And so they're 14-inch rotors in the front now, 12.7-inch rotors in the rear. So nicely beefed up there for the brakes. And so, you know, that ensures that it is still a well-rounded vehicle for sure. It's not, you know, just some crazy big engine and nothing else to go around it. You know, you still have the very competent suspension that was already just such a good basis from the 350. And then you have the bigger brakes to go along with that as well. And I also saw some other reviews were saying that the suspension felt a little bit soft. I'm not feeling any of that softness. Now, it's not like stiff or uncomfortable, but it certainly doesn't, you know, feel like it's sloppy or loose or anything like that. So I'm not sure what they were talking about with that, but oh man. I mean, you do feel the weight shift around a little bit, so you know, maybe have a little bit more play there than you have with, you know, one of the competitors or so, but I don't know. I think it just all feels really nicely set up. Got some more corners here. See if we can push the handling a little bit more. See if these tires want to find a limit to their grip. So now we are up to 36 degrees, so closer to the 40 degrees that these tires are supposed to be at for the normal operating temperature, but they're still gripping really well even with these subprime temps. And it just, yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously this could be a drift mod, so you can go ahead and turn off, you know, traction control, stability control, and just slide this thing all over the place if you want. But, you know, whenever you're just trying to tear up a back road here, you know, it's not a handful, it's not hard to manage, it's not like a Dodge Charger that's constantly wanting to just, you know, swing its tail out on you. This thing is very polished, very refined, and I mean, one thing I'm noticing, steering I wish was a little bit quicker. Now you do have a little bit of extra weight here in the Sport Plus mode, but I mean, it feels pretty good, but just requires a little bit more work And the steering isn't like as quick as something like an Alfa Romeo Giulia, which is still like the all-star as far as steering in my mind. But yeah, even with the slightly slower steering, still is an absolute blast around corners. And so if you're someone who, you know, likes the idea of a V8 sedan, you really don't have very many choices. It's really this or a Dodge Charger these days. And I mean, I can't really compare this to a Charger, honestly, but I mean, in case it needs to be said, this definitely handles much better. It's much more refined, much more luxurious, but you know, it's less of a hooligan and, you know, more of a muscular vehicle in a suit in a way. You know, it's got that restraint to it, but it puts the power down very well, but it still can be an animal again if you turn everything off. But I just like that it's, you know, you have the V8, you can enjoy the V8, but again, it's still very easy to drive smoothly. It's a great daily driver that doesn't feel like it's trying to do a burnout from every red light, and it's not, you know, feeling like it's trying to be drifting around every single corner the second that you even breathe on the gas. And that is the case in the Dodge Charger. So if you want a handful all the time, Charger is great, and they're a hilarious amount of fun. I love them, but this is definitely different with its character, but I still love it all the same. Even just merging onto the highway here, just accelerating, you know, down an on-ramp here. I mean, this thing, oh, I'm never going to get tired of that sound. It's just so good. But anyway, we are out on the highway here now. And one nice thing, so, you know, with the IS500, of course, you have the full Lexus safety suite. So you have the blind spot monitoring, automatic emergency braking, all that kind of stuff. It also does have adaptive cruise control, and it even does like the lane centering a bit. This is the driver's car. I don't think anyone really cares too much about the safety tech, so I'm not going to dwell on it. But, you know, it has all the stuff that you're expecting out of a vehicle in this price range. It's just a nice thing to cruise around in here. But I love that, you know, you still can hear the V8 engine even whenever you're just kind of cruising at normal highway speeds. It's always kind of just burbling away there in the background. So anyway, thanks to Lexus, I'm going to have the IS500 here for an entire week. So I'm going to drive around all over the place, have a blast just listening to this beautiful V8 for an entire week. And I'll come back and give you guys my final real-world fuel economy, as well as my thoughts on the pricing and its competition, and anything else that I noticed during my week of driving it. So I've been driving the IS500 here for a week, and I've been doing a lot of that. And one thing I've really grown to appreciate here is I have been doing the manual mode a little bit more, because that's really where you get the most weight transfer. And I love the weight transfer. It does, the more that I've been driving it, the more I have been noticing the weight transfer and the little bit of a softer suspension that some of the other reviewers were mentioning. And I really love that about this car, because it gives it a lot more drama, in addition to the V8 soundtrack, which is also more dramatic than a lot of the other, you know, Turbo 6s you get in all the competitors. But just, I like that. I like that the nose lifts up, and it's more of an event, and it just adds to that fun. And these are the little kind of intangible things that add up to a more fun experience that's beyond the numbers and beyond the specs. These are the types of things that make this more fun than, you know, an M340i BMW or something like that, which is similarly as quick, but you get just less drama. I mean, it's so much fun. And so I absolutely love driving this thing. It's just been a very fun week, and I'm going to miss V8 powered Lexus models. But another thing that I'm not going to miss, honestly, is the kind of dead brake response. The brake it's kind of nice, I guess, because, you know, a lot of other performance vehicles are a little too touchy with their brake pedals, and it can kind of get a little bit annoying. But this, I think, goes a little bit too far the other way, and I do wish the brakes were a little more sensitive, because when I've been doing some of these accelerations and I wanted to like quickly haul down to a stop or slow down more quickly, like for example when I was doing those rolling shots and doing those accelerations and stuff, you know, trying to slow down, you know, I'm really like feeling like I'm standing on the brake pedal to really get the kind of braking action I want out of it. And that's not something you want in a performance car. I want it to respond quickly and strongly. We have bigger brakes. They should be boosted to give you a stronger feeling than they do. And so that's really my only nitpick here with this thing. But it's so much fun in a different way, again, like I was mentioning earlier, to like a Charger or something like that. You know, it has some of the craziness, but it's, you know, more more subdued, but it still is just, it's so much fun. And I also like the high revving nature of this over, you know, the boatloads of torque you get at, you know, super low RPMs with like the Charger and stuff like that. And I love how responsive it is too. It's kind of old school with just how responsive the throttle is in this car. I'm never really waiting, even when I'm in fully automatic mode, I'm never really waiting very often for any kind of response. It just, I stomp on it and it goes immediately. And it just kind of has an old school feeling to it in that way. Steering also kind of has a little bit more of an old school feel. And anyway, I just love this thing. It's fantastic. And so anyway, the last couple of things I mentioned here are the fuel economy and the pricing here in the IS500. So first off, fuel economy. These are rated at 17 mpg in the city, 25 on the highway, and 20 combined, which means that really you're going to be only about 1 or 2 mpg less than like an IS350 all-wheel drive. That's not bad fuel economy for something with a V8. I think the big reason why is because this vehicle still isn't super heavy. It's a nice small sedan, and so, you know, that V8 doesn't have to work very hard in normal driving. And so pretty solid fuel economy. Now my fuel economy here over about 85 miles of driving that I've been doing, which, as I will admit, you know, had a good amount of accelerations and a good amount of fun there that I was having. My average has been 14.3. So I'm about 3 mpg under the city rating. I typically do 1 to 2 mpg under the city rating in my driving, which is just mostly suburban back roads, kind of cruising around at 35 miles an hour kind of stuff. 14 mpg is not great, and that's, you know, just as bad as a Charger. Honestly, maybe even a little bit worse than a Charger. But you kind of are, you know, coming into this knowing it's not going to get great fuel economy. You're buying a V8 powered sports sedan. You know, it comes with the territory, so I don't think anyone's going to complain too much. But in these days of high gas prices currently, 14 mpg is just something you're going to want to factor into your budgeting if you're planning on buying one of these. And then the last thing to mention is the pricing here in the IS500. And while you might be paying a little bit more for gas, as far as the pricing goes, it's very competitive and is an area where you could potentially even save a few bucks compared to some of the competitors. So the IS500 starts around $57,000 or so, and it's nice that they offer a lower trim, since this is kind of like not a limited production run, but since they're probably not going to build a ton of these, it's nice that there is some kind of choice. But the base model gives you a kind of an awkward, more square screen that's smaller and has huge bezels on it. It doesn't look very nice. You also don't get the Mark Levinson premium surround sound system and a few other nice features that you get here with this, like the heated steering wheel and stuff, which is nice to have. And so this one, being a premium one, as tested, is $62,670. And even at $62,000, I have to say this is a really good value. The only thing that undercuts it is a Dodge Charger. And I know a Dodge Charger, you know, is not luxurious. It's not competing with this directly. But considering how few V8 sports sedans are out there these days, the Charger's basically your only other choice if you want 4 doors and a V8. So, you know, at least as far as rear-wheel drive stuff goes and non-turbo stuff and everything. So, you know, the Charger does undercut this. You can get, you know, a Scat Pack Charger for, you know, I'd say about 10 grand less or so. But if you do want a comparably equipped one, you're still going to end up coming out about 56 grand or so, and that's for like a wide body one, so you have a little bit better grip and all of that. You know, you could come out around basically where this starts. Yes, I think a Charger is still better value if you want the most insane V8 powered sedan. Charger's the way to go, and it's a lot more drama in the Charger, honestly, with the way that thing loves to kick out the back end and you know, loves doing burnouts from every red light and everything else, you know, all that stuff. If you're someone who loves V8 drama, the Charger still probably has this beat. But if you want something with a little more polish, a little more maturity to it, I think that this is really a good bargain for what you're getting. Again, a V8 powered luxury sports sedan for $62,000. That's a good deal, considering an M340i, which is actually the only other rear-wheel drive direct competitor to this, honestly. Those, for a comparable one, is going to cost you $61,000 anyway. So you're basically at the same price without the V8. You get 100 less horsepower than the BMW. Now the BMW has the much quicker 8-speed automatic, and because of, you know, the way the Germans can do these excellent 0 to 60s and stuff, that has a 0 to 60 time that's very similar to this, despite being down by 100 horsepower. You know, so it just comes down to whether you want the efficient, you know, no wheel spin, just quick, snappy shifts and everything of that, you know, BMW, or you're willing to go for this and, you know, have a little bit less of that precision, but you have tons more fun and a much better soundtrack in my opinion. Although the M340i admittedly does still sound very good. You know, if it were my money, you know, Chargers and stuff are fun, but I just love the appeal of this and kind of the slightly more sleeper nature. You know, you don't have the kind of hooligan reputation with the Chargers and stuff. I think that this is kind of a nice kind of have your cake and eat it too thing. You can be called around in luxury. You have something that looks really slick, and you know you can impress people when you roll up to the office. But then you know you also have just the great V8 soundtrack and all that same insanity with this high RPM, you know, engine and stuff, which I think it's a very fun combo. And I also have to add, you know, I'm paraphrasing here, but Lexus, you know, basically said, never say never, but this is probably the last V8 sedan, you know, unless things wildly change. You know, as of right now, you know, Lexus is planning to go fully electric in 2035. They just revealed a bunch of electric concepts, including a sedan and stuff. Now, that doesn't mean they're going electric next year or anything, but it just means that that stuff is coming. So this type of thing will not last for much longer. And chances are this is probably the last one to have a V8 in a sedan from Lexus. So if you want to enjoy this gem of an engine, and you know you don't want to buy used GSF or an RCF or something like that, I think that, you know, this is a car. Grab it while you can, enjoy it while you can. It also has to be said too that you have the, you know, famous Lexus reliability, and these are very strong motors, and so you can have this high RPM engine and not have to be terrified about it blowing up like you might be worried about with, you know, the older M3s with their higher red lines and things like that. You know, this is a vehicle you could buy, keep for a long time, and not have to worry as much. And that is also something I think carries a lot of weight with a lot of people, to be able to buy something, keep it, and enjoy it, especially whenever you're talking about collectible stuff like V8s like this. It's something you might want to keep a little bit longer than your average commuter car. And so it's just nice that, you know, the Lexus offers that, and that's something that can't be said for some of the competitors. So anyway, that's it as far as all of my thoughts here on the IS500. Just such a special car. I'm just thankful I got to spend a week and enjoy this vehicle while it's still here. It's an absolute blast and deserves to be enjoyed. Thank you all very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts on the IS500 in the comments below. And yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.